Yesterday was a pretty bad day in the world of Xbox. A lot happened, and we're going to go over it. So Xbox had a major layoffs yesterday that resulted in a studio getting closed down in the initiative, 3 games being canceled, and people losing their jobs across various roles at Xbox game studios. And it was a part of 9,000 job cuts here that Microsoft did have, I believe, across the entire company. Xbox obviously did not come away unscathed from everything that was occurring here. And there's lots to go over because there's a lot of fallout from this. What does this mean for the future? People are asking all of these types of questions, and we'll go over that. I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on that type of stuff. But as I talked about yesterday, 3 games that get canceled. You had Perfect Dark, you had Everwild, and you had the game that was going to be coming out as another MMORPG from ZeniMax Online Studios. Now, out of those 3 games, I think the biggest shocker for most people is Perfect Dark. Everwild, we had no idea what was happening with this game. It had been announced a long time ago. We've seen nothing. We've barely heard anything about the game other than some talking points about the game doing good, or it was having development hell, all of these things that you couldn't really verify whether it was true or not. So it being canceled, not a big shocker, not a major surprise. Then you have the game from ZeniMax Online Studios, which I was kind of shocked they were making another MMORPG with ESO still out there and being relatively successful. You think they would have just continued putting the resources into the Elder Scrolls Online. So that one being canceled. Not a shock. Perfect Dark, however, is a game that we saw gameplay of, and Microsoft and Xbox were hyping this one up to be a big first-party title. It being canceled is disappointing, sad, and somewhat shocking for a lot of people. But for others out there, they aren't as shocked because the gameplay trailer that was shown off at the 2024 Xbox Game Showcase that looked very good, apparently, was not even real. It was something that it wasn't actual real gameplay of it itself. If you go down here, this is a report from Kotaku, who at the same time as Xbox with their layoffs, Kotaku got sold. We'll talk about that in a different video. But the trailer shown off at the 2024 Xbox Game Showcase, the response to it was mainly positive because the game looked great, had great visuals, and they say here slick art style and gameplay that seemed like a combination of Deus Ex, Dying Light, and the old Perfect Dark games. But the trailer did not include a release date, and now we kind of know why. You do have the senior reporter here from Kotaku on Blue Sky saying that the Perfect Dark sizzle reel at last year's Xbox Showcase looked awesome. Someone at the time also told me it was basically fake. So seemingly this was just a CGI style, not real gameplay, that you were getting an in-game engine look at the game itself. Although it did look like that. You could look at the trailer as well and question, I guess, was this real gameplay of the game itself? Because there were some moments in there where that question was arising for people, but that makes a lot of sense now with Perfect Dark being canceled and the initiative being closed down. The reality is, with the initiative, this was a studio that was open, I believe, 7 years ago. Daryl Gallagher at the helm of it. They delivered nothing. Absolutely nothing, and now they are shut down. I feel like there are a lot of promises made there from the upper management, the senior management at the initiative. They probably just didn't deliver on a lot of those promises, and Xbox was at there looking at the Perfect Dark and looking at the studio and thinking, we've already sunk 7 years, or guess whenever this game truly started in development, maybe 5 years or so of development time and development costs into this game. Can we even make our money back on it if we continue to let this development go forward with potentially another few years here before the game is even ready to go? The decision obviously was made to that was a no. They cut the game, they cut the studio, and here we are without a Perfect Dark reboot. We will probably never see this franchise again unless somebody else does end up picking it up. So I think for a lot of people, that was the sad one, including myself. I would have loved to see this game come to fruition because that gameplay sizzle trailer, fake or not, looked really good. And I would have loved to see that turn into a video game that I would be able to get my hands on, but that won't be the case going forward. So those were the game cancellations. That was the major studio closure, but that wasn't all that did happen yesterday in terms of the layoffs. Rare was also hit even after the Everwild cancellation. Some big names are leaving Rare after many, many years at the studio and lots of experience and everything. Banjo-Kazooie Sea of Thieves director is leaving Rare after 35 years following the Everwild cancellation. And this is Greg Mayles will be leaving the company. They say he will be leaving the company, according to sources who spoke to VGC anonymously, that Mayles will leave Rare following the news of Everwild's cancellation on Wednesday. And the designer had been directing the project since its team was restructured in 2021. So you take that for what you will. He's been there for 35 years. Maybe he wants to just sail off into the sunset, not going to start a new project at this point, and going to move forward to new and different and potentially better things. The other person here that is leaving is the executive producer, Louise O'Connor. They say another Rare veteran whose first project was Conker's Bad Fur Day for the N64 will also leave the company following Everwild's cancellation. They reached out to Microsoft for comments. Don't believe that comment has been given yet. So they're losing some top names here at the studio. I feel like these people at some point were leaving anyways. Even if Everwild were to come out, they probably would have left after that just because of the length of time. That's just a complete guess on my part, just because of the time they've been there. 35 years. It's a long time. But we will see if there's anything else that comes out of Rare going forward, because Sea of Thieves right now is what they're creating. Is there something else that we don't know about in the works at Rare? Rare has had a big hit with Sea of Thieves, but I feel like overall their output has not been very strong, basically since Microsoft did take them over. So that's a studio that needs to put out another big hitter and another big game. Other cuts here at Xbox that did occur were employees, a part of the Xbox user research team. They said that they've been hit hard, with nearly half of the team affected. And they say it's a key team that focuses on ensuring quality across Xbox game, the platform and developer tools. And even the head of the Xbox family and child safety has also been laid off. You have to ask yourself, if they're cutting people at these teams, are they just going to be outsourcing, or is AI going to take on many roles that the people in these parts of Xbox do? Because these are still very important things, like the user research to make sure that games and developer tools are all running well and issues get fixed. That still needs to be done. So I feel like they've either just reduced the team and they have enough people there that now they think can do the job, or they're going to be outsourcing a lot of these people's jobs to third-party studios. Who knows? That's just, again, a guess of mine, but that is unfortunate for all the people that did lose their jobs there. Hopefully they do end up landing on their feet like everybody else. Turn 10 also got hit with layoffs, 50% of their staff. This was a studio that I was thinking was going to be shut down when we were hearing about the rumors of the layoffs. I thought Turn 10 was going to be hit the hardest. Jason Schreier says here, many of Xbox's subsidiaries are getting hit by the layoffs this morning, including Call of Duty studios like Raven, and big cuts at Forza Motorsport developers. Turn 10, nearly 50% of the staff per source. Forza Motorsport did not take off the way Xbox wanted it to. So losing 50% of the staff is a lot. I thought there was going to be cuts either way there, but 50% seems like a very, very large number. And other studios that did get hit, as I said, Raven, Sledgehammer was hit with layoffs. Blizzard was also hit with some layoffs, and King and ZeniMax as well. So it was a big, big day here. We don't know the exact number of people that did get laid off, but this is a Microsoft-wide thing that happened yesterday. Xbox being a part of that. We're also at 9,000 employees at Microsoft were laid off or could be laid off. And we don't know, again, the full extent and the full numbers. So it was a very sad day. And hopefully, as I've said multiple times, everyone ends up okay when this dust does settle. We've seen a lot of crazy takes after this. You always do whenever big news like this does come down. My overall take from this is a big change, a big restructuring, in the sense that they are absolutely shifting the way that Xbox is going to be ran and what they are focusing on. Phil Spencer put out a memo, and that memo was interesting to say the very least, especially if you're somebody who's being laid off and you're reading that. He basically, I'm not going to go through the whole memo. It's a lot of corporate speak, but to sum it up, he basically said, we are wildly successful right now. Everything is looking good, but we have to make these cuts and layoffs because we are going to be focusing on the things that make the most money for us at Xbox. That's basically what he had said. That's the way I interpreted it, which makes me believe that Xbox is going to be far more conservative, take a lot less risks. They have Call of Duty now that makes them a ton of money. They have other big IPs. Like if you think about 2026, they really focused on three major IPs that are guaranteed basically to make them money, which is Gears, Halo, and Forza. And I think Xbox is just going to turn down the dial a bit in taking risks, which is sad because to me, one of the best things about Xbox over the last 5 years or so was greenlighting projects that probably weren't going to be that successful commercially, but they were going to be creative and gamers are going to be able to play them, whether that was through Game Pass or purchasing them on Xbox or on other platforms. And it was going to lead to new creative ideas in games where I don't think we're going to see very much of that going forward for Xbox here. I think it's going to be just the main hitters, the big games that make a lot of money, doubling down on those different iterations of those styles of games. You could kind of take a step back and think they may actually be shifting a little bit more to what PlayStation has been doing, which is taking almost no risks and releasing the same games and the same titles that make them a lot of money. That's just my guess based off of reading his memo. I could be completely wrong on this, but that's how I read it when I was reading through what Phil Spencer did right. My biggest fear, I think, right now for Xbox isn't that they're failing or going away. They are making next generation hardware. That was again confirmed after these layoffs. They're still wildly successful in the amount of money that they are making. They're still going to be putting out lots of games onto Xbox Game Pass. None of that is going away. My biggest fear, though, is that they become a Call of Duty company where they're relying on Call of Duty so much to make all of their money. They continue to take less risks going forward. So we will see. There's still lots of questions to be answered here. One of the things that I think when we're looking at stuff like this happening is the senior leadership, Matt Booty, Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond. Those are the three big names at the top of Xbox. I mean, they should be bearing the brunt of this because they are the ones at the end of the day that make Xbox run, make the major decisions. And when you have games like Perfect Dark that was in development for as long as it was and nothing is produced, you have to look at the top, at the senior leadership and ask what happened here. How was there no control to let a project like that get out of hand where they had to cancel it after all of this time in development? One of the people at Xbox that people always call for his firing is Phil Spencer. I still stand by the fact I think Phil Spencer has done a lot of great things for Xbox. Yes, he's not perfect. Yes, he's made mistakes, but he's grown the brand in a way that we would have never expected at this point. If you do look and really sit back and think about the amount of games you still get from Xbox today, it is pretty phenomenal. You still look at Game Pass and the amount of first-party titles that are dropping into the service. It is still very, very good. And a lot of people are calling for Phil Spencer to be fired. There's even fake reports going around that he was getting set up here to be replaced. So there was this thread that was going on X, and we'll just click onto it here. And this comes via the Ghost of Hope. Okay, now everything is deleted as I'm filming this video, and that's how you can kind of know that this is probably all just a fake story made up or bad sources before reported. Tom Henderson and Insider Gaming reported on this as well in an article on Insider Gaming, and it was about Phil Spencer retiring and that Sarah Bond was being set up to take over. In fact, it says here, amidst the negativity, though, even more rumors began to spread from Call of Duty leaker The Ghost of Hope. A claim that Microsoft Gaming CEO and Xbox head Phil Spencer will be stepping down from his role after the next generation Xbox console releases, rumored to be planned for 2027, with Xbox president Sarah Bond taking the reins. Now, if you were to ask me, if this does happen, I will not be shocked. I think this still could easily happen simply because he's at retirement age. Phil Spencer's been there for a very long time. He's going to be retiring soon. He's not going to be there, I don't think, for another 10 years or something. He will be retiring soon. But the report that was put out today seemingly was made up. And you have Frank Shaw here, who is actually the lead communications for Microsoft, and he's responding to Tom Henderson, who kind of got called out here, and Tom Henderson replies getting called out about making this article in Insider Gaming, and he says, I think I summed it up in the article just fine with a smiley face. And Frank Shaw here, again, the lead communications at Microsoft, says, so long as by summed it up, you mean made it up. So right now, reports about Phil Spencer retiring and Sarah Bond coming in at this moment is not true, as he literally calls out all the reports that are going around. This is always an issue whenever there's big news, negative news specifically regarding Xbox and other companies out there. There's always going to be some hyperbolic statements, some things that come out that just aren't true, some things that make things look worse than they currently are, even if they are already very, very bad. And this would have been something here that people would have ran with if it wasn't clarified right away here by Frank Shaw. So that about sums up what happened yesterday in terms of the Xbox layoffs. Not a good day. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of projects were canceled. And there's a lot of people that are going to be questioning and calling out the leadership at Xbox and what is the future here. There is one piece of good news here. And again, I think that going forward, there's still lots of games. There's still a very bright future for things like Game Pass at Xbox. The next couple of days, people are going to be making this like doom and gloom. Xbox is dead again, and the company's shutting down, and there's no next generation console, which again, they reconfirmed going forward that there will be one. But there are still tons of games to come out from Xbox. So the positive out of all this is if you're a gamer, you like the titles that Xbox puts out, you like Game Pass. Right now, the 40 plus projects in active development and everything shown off at the summer's game showcase is still continuing on. And again, this was in a statement from Matt Booty when he put out his memo. And if you remember, the Xbox Game Showcase 2025 was phenomenal. There is still a ton of games to look forward to. Even in this next month, you got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, which is a first party title, Grounded 2, which is a first party title. And then by the end of the year, you have Black Ops 7, The Outer Worlds 2, and Gears of War Reloaded. This entire line here, first party, except of course Ninja Gaiden 4, which is still going into Game Pass day one. So it's not all doom and gloom. People will make it out to be. I think at the end of the day, the biggest issue and the saddest thing here are the people who lost their jobs. I mean, gamers like you and me are still going to be able to get tons of great content on the subscription service. We're still going to have a ton of fun, but people's livelihoods were affected yesterday, and that is the saddest part. But I will end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.